Chapter 5. The Great Escape and the Way Home. The spiral staircase of the Shadow Spire felt like it went on forever, a dizzying corkscrew of cold stone that seemed to groan under the weight of the magic clashing above. Jade shouted over the roar of a magical wind that smelled like ozone and old parchment. Dumper, the massive charcoal dog, took the lead. He didn't run like a normal dog. He bounded, his glowing amber eyes cutting through the thick purple mist that Grizel had conjured to slow them down. Alfie held Aria's hand, practically lifting her over the steeper steps, while Jade kept Aziah tucked firmly against her chest. They burst for a final set of heavy oak doors and onto the roof of the spire. The sky above was a swirling vortex of violet and gold. In the center of the roof stood Nanny, her rowan wood staff planted firmly in the stone. She looked like a statue of ancient light, but she was trembling. Opposite her, hovering a few feet off the ground, was Grizel. The witch was no longer a grandmother or even a hag. She was a creature made of ink and shadows, her tattered robes whipping around her like the wings of a giant bat. She held a crystal vial in one hand, and inside it, a tiny, glowing spark was dancing. Aziah's stolen laughter. "You're too late, Michelle," Grizel shrieked, her voice echoing like thunder. "The story ends with me." "The story never ends, Grizel." Nanny counted, her voice strained but steady. "It just turns a new page." "Mum," Alfie yelled, pointing at the vial. "She's got it! She's got the laughter!" Grizel turned her glowing yellow eyes toward the children. "Ah, the little hero returns, and he brought the traitorous beast with him." She flicked a finger, and a bolt of jagged purple lightning shot toward Bumper. The dog didn't flinch. He let out a thunderous bark, a sound so deep it seemed to shake the very foundations of the castle, and leaped. He didn't jump at the witch. He jumped in front of the children. The lightning struck his charcoal fur and simply dissipated, as if his loyalty was a shield that no dark magic could pierce. "Jade, the whistle!" Nanny cried out, her staff beginning to dim. The shadow's only answer to the heart that loves the children most. Jade didn't hesitate. She pulled the silver whistle from her pocket. She looked at Alfie's brave face, Aria's wide eyes, and the confused but calm gaze of her youngest son. She didn't just blow into the whistle. She poured every ounce of her love, her worry, and her strength into it. This time, the sound wasn't silent. It was a clear, piercing note that rang out across the Candy Crag Mountains. From every corner of the roof, the shadows didn't rise to attack. They rose to play. They swirled around Grizel, not like claws, but like a tickling breeze. The witch stumbled, her concentration breaking. The ink that made up her form began to smudge and blur. "What is this?" Grizel hissed, batting at the air. "Stop this nonsense." "It's not nonsense," Alfie shouted, stepping forward. He realized then that in this world the rules were different. It wasn't about who was strongest. It was about who had the best story. It's a happy ending, and you aren't in it. Alfie reached into his satchel, the one that had appeared when they entered the woods, and pulled out the only thing he found inside, a small, silver ball. He realized it wasn't a weapon. It was a toy. He threw it with perfect aim, not at the witch, but at Bumper. "Fetch, Bumper, fetch!" The dog understood instantly. He leaped into the air, his massive jaws snapping shut, not on the ball, but on the crystal vial hanging from the witch's distracted hand. Crack! The vial shattered. The glowing spark of Aziah's laughter didn't fall to the ground. It soared through the air, like a shooting star, straight back into the baby's chest. Aziah let out a loud, bubbly giggle that echoed across the roof. and the sound acted like a physical shockwave. The purple vortex in the sky vanished. The jagged stones of the spire began to smooth out, turning back into the soft silver wood of the forest. Grizel let out one final frustrated wail before she began to shrink. Her shadow pulled inward, her robes folded in on themselves, and with a soft pop, she was gone. In her place sat a small stone garden gnome with a grumpy expression and a hat decorated with a single dried sunflower. The silence that followed was beautiful. Nanny leaned on her staff, her breathing slowing down. The golden light of the woods returned, soft and warm. "Is it over?" Aria whispered, poking the stone gnome with her toe. "For now," Nanny said, walking over and wrapping the whole family in a hug. "She'll be a very quiet decoration for a very long time." But the ground beneath them began to shimmer. The silver leaves at their feet started to turn back into the blue fibers of a bedroom carpet. The cold mountain air was being replaced by a scent of lavender and home. "The book is calling us back," Nanny said, her voice tinged with a hint of sadness. "The story has been lived. It's time to sleep." In the center of the roof, the big book appeared, its pages open and glowing with a soft, inviting white light. It looked like a doorway. "Wait," Alfie said, looking at Bumper. The dog was sitting by the portal, his head low, his tail giving a slow, uncertain wag. "He can't stay here. He saved us. Grizel will just find him again, if she ever wakes up." Jade looked at the dog, then at her children's pleading faces. She looked at Nanny, who gave a small, secret nod. "The story is only as good as its characters," Alfie Jade said, smiling, "and I think our family is missing a member." She whistled, a normal, human whistle this time, and patted her leg. Bumper's ears shot up. He let out a joyous woof and bounded toward them. Together, the 5 of them and one very large dog leaped into the glowing pages of the book. There was a sensation of falling through silk, a flash of silver light, and then, thump. Jade found herself sitting in the oversized armchair in the bedroom. The big book was closed in her lap. The fairy lights were still twinkling softly on the walls. Aziah was fast asleep in her arms, his thumb in his mouth. Aria was curled up in a ball at her feet, snoring gently, and Alfie was sitting on the rug, blinking as if he had just woken up from a very long dream. "Mum," Alfie whispered, rubbing his eyes. Were we just—" Jade looked down at her lap. She brushed a hand over the leather cover of the book. Then she noticed something. Tucked into the collar of Alfie's pajamas was a single, shimmering, silver leaf. "It was a very good story, Alfie," Jade said, her voice thick with wonder. "The best one yet." Alfie nodded, feeling a bit heavy-eyed himself. He crawled toward his bunk, but stopped halfway. He looked at the foot of the bed. There, stretched out across the blue carpet, was a massive, charcoal-colored shadow. As Alfie watched, the shadow sat up and turned into a very real, very solid dog. Bumper let out a quiet, muffled huff, circled 3 times, and flopped down across Alfie's feet. He gave one final, contented wag of his tail against the floorboards. Thump, thump. Nanny appeared in the doorway, carrying the tray of warm milk she had bought a lifetime ago. She looked at the dog, then at Jade, and winked. "Sleep well, keepers," Nanny whispered. Jade leaned her head back against the chair, listening to the rhythmic breathing of her children and the soft snoring of a loyal helper from another world. She closed her eyes, knowing that while this chapter was finished, the best part of being a family was that there was always a sequel waiting tomorrow. The end.
Stories are waiting, come join the ride. Adventure and laughter with magic inside. K-R-E-8, let fun ideas fly. Building worlds together, reaching for the sky. Reaching for the sky.